Reality isn't what you think it is. From the moment you took your first breath in this world, you've been trained to see it through a lens that doesn't belong to you. A lens built by others, explaining the universe in pieces, scattered chaotic and disconnected. But what if that lens wasn't designed to help you see clearly at all? What if it was crafted to keep you blind? There's a hidden framework that's been around longer than any religion. It's untouched by dogma more powerful than most spiritual teachings, and it's been right in front of us all along. It's called Hermeticism, an ancient system of knowledge rooted in 7 principles, not commandments, not theories, but laws. Immutable laws that shape everything around you, your thoughts, your emotions, your relationships, even the reality you think is solid. These laws don't need your belief. They don't ask for faith. Just like gravity, they operate whether you acknowledge them or not. But once you start to understand them, really understand them, everything shifts. The chaos starts making sense. The pain starts revealing a purpose. And the power you thought was out there, you realize it's been in your hands all along. You just weren't taught how to use it. Most people live their entire lives thinking life is random, that some people are just lucky, that all we can do is try to survive it. Yeah, but what if life isn't random at all? What if it's governed by a set of precise, unshakable laws that, once understood, give you access to the very blueprint of reality? That's what the 7 Hermetic Principles are. Ancient teachings said to be passed down by Hermes Trismegistus, a mysterious figure said to be part God, part sage, and the source of all esoteric wisdom. These teachings weren't preserved so people could worship them. They were passed down so people could use them, and yet they've been buried, hidden under layers of symbolism, secrecy, and misunderstanding. Until now. Let's start with the first principle, the one that flips everything you thought you knew about reality on its head, mentalism. It says, all is mind. That's not a metaphor. It literally means everything, every object, every moment, every emotion is a product of consciousness. You don't live in the world lives in you. Your consciousness is the canvas on which reality is painted. This is why two people can go through the same event and experience completely different realities. It's not about what happens, it's about the observer. It's about how consciousness filters, shapes, and projects the world we experience. And here's where it gets really interesting. Modern science is beginning to catch up. Quantum physics, through experiments like the double slit, has shown that particles behave differently just by being observed. Matter itself responds to consciousness. Mind shapes matter. It always has. Which brings us to the second principle, correspondence. As above, so below. As within, so without. The universe is a fractal. Patterns repeat on every level, celestial, biological, psychological. Your inner world reflects your outer world, and vice versa. That's not self-help fluff. That's sacred geometry, biology, cosmology, consciousness. When your mind is in chaos, your life reflects that chaos. When your thoughts are aligned, focused, grounded, your external world starts to match. That's not wishful thinking. That's law. And this is where most people check out. It sounds too simple, like think good thoughts and everything will magically get better. But that's missing the point. Your beliefs, your emotions, your thoughts, these aren't background noise. They're blueprints. They shape what shows up in your life. The system we live in doesn't want you to know that. It benefits when you think you're powerless, because if you knew how powerful your mind truly is, you'd be impossible to control. And if you want to dive even deeper into truths too raw, too real, and too honest to share here on YouTube, check out the free newsletter Insights Academy through the link below. We're giving away a digital copy of the Kabbalion for a limited time. This is how the real work begins. Each Hermetic principle builds on the last like puzzle pieces. Together they form a complete picture that dissolves the illusion of limitation. Principle 3, vibration. It says nothing rests, everything moves. On the smallest scale, from atoms to subatomic particles, everything is vibrating. That movement isn't just physical, it's energetic, emotional, frequency-based. Your thoughts have a frequency, your emotions have a frequency, and like a tuning fork, you attract what you resonate with. This isn't some good vibes only cliche. It's resonance, entrainment, sympathetic vibration, real terms from physics, music theory, and neuroscience. When you're angry, afraid, anxious, you're vibrating at those frequencies, and your reality begins to respond, not because it's judging you, but because it's matching you. The key isn't pretending to be happy. It's learning to raise your frequency through awareness, breath work, aligned action, and conscious presence. But don't turn this into another spiritual ego trip. Don't memorize it just to sound smart. Live it, test it. Notice how your life responds when you shift your internal world, when you stop waiting for change to come from the outside and start owning the fact that your vibration determines your direction. The Hermetic Principles don't require belief. They demand awareness. They don't care if you're religious, atheist, spiritual, or skeptical. They simply are like gravity, like breath, like time. You've just been handed a key. The question is, what are you going to unlock? Most of your life, these laws have been invisible, not because they were hidden in some temple or sacred scroll, but because no one ever taught you how to recognize them. You were distracted, conditioned, and funneled into a system that doesn't benefit from you being aware of how reality truly works. Why? Because if everyone understood the Hermetic Principles, the entire structure of society would fall apart, not in chaos, but in conscious liberation. The people who profit from fear, from control, from confusion, they would lose their grip. So instead, you were taught that your mind is a side tool, that life happens to you, not through you. You were never told your mind is the architect of your experience. Look at the world you were raised in. School didn't teach you how to observe your thoughts or question your beliefs. It taught you how to follow directions, get good grades, obey, conform, work, consume, retire, repeat. But nowhere in that cycle were you shown how to use your own frequency, your own polarity, or your own rhythm to shape your life. That leads us to the fourth principle, polarity. Everything has its pair of opposites, love and hate, light and dark. Fear and courage, these aren't separate forces. They're the same thing, just at different ends of a spectrum. Cold and hot, both temperature, just different degrees. This principle is the decoder ring for emotional mastery. It teaches you that where you are is never fixed. If you're deep in fear, the potential for courage is already present, just further along the scale. You don't need to force yourself into radical change. You just need to pivot, 1 degree at a time. Polarity is practical psychology. It shows up in cognitive reframing, emotional regulation, and even modern therapeutic practices. The ancient Hermetic teachings had this wisdom long before clinical psychology existed because truth, real truth, is timeless. Think about it when you're stuck in anger. Do you try to leap straight to forgiveness? Probably not. But if you start by shifting toward understanding, then empathy, then forgiveness, it becomes possible. The same with despair and hope. You don't jump from hopeless to inspired in a second, but you can take one step forward and then another. Most people never take that step. They're trapped in black and white thinking, success or failure, good or bad, right or wrong. But polarity teaches that life isn't binary, it's fluid. Everything is a scale, and you can move on that scale the moment you realize it exists. And here's what happens when you start to apply it. You begin seeing the world differently. Arguments stop becoming, I'm right, you're wrong. Instead, you see where both sides are just different expressions of the same core energy, just polarized. It opens the door to understanding, not conflict, to clarity, not chaos. You also begin to see how much of your identity is shaped by which end of the spectrum you've been anchored to. And once you realize you can shift your position, you stop being reactive and start becoming responsive. And that right there is power. From polarity, we move to principle 5, rhythm. Everything flows in and out. Life isn't a straight line. It's a wave. And yet, how many of us have been conditioned to believe we're supposed to feel the same every day? Always happy, always motivated, always productive, but that's not how energy works. That's how machines work. And you, my friend, are not a machine. You breathe in, you breathe out. The tides rise, they fall. The seasons change. Everything alive follows a rhythm. Your emotions, your creativity, your inspiration, your relationships, all of it moves in cycles. The Hermetic wisdom puts it like this: the measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left, meaning the higher your highs, the deeper your lows can go, and vice versa. But instead of resisting the swing, what if you learned to ride it? This principle isn't about pretending the lows aren't happening. It's about understanding them. When you feel uninspired, unmotivated, emotionally drained, that's not failure. That's a natural contraction, and that contraction is preparing you for the next expansion. Most people fight the rhythm. They cling to the highs, panic in the lows, and label every dip as a sign something's wrong. But when you begin to honor the rhythm, when you align your actions with it, life starts to feel less like a struggle and more like a dance. Think about your own patterns. There are days, weeks, even months where you're on fire. Everything flows. Your ideas are sharp. Your energy is high. Then out of nowhere, you crash. Nothing works. You feel heavy, disconnected. That's rhythm. And when you understand it, you stop judging yourself for the ebb. You start using the downtime for reflection, for integration, for rest. You stop forcing forward momentum when the wave is pulling inward. This is emotional intelligence on a cosmic scale. It's also why some of the most creative people take long periods of silence or solitude, not because they're broken, but because they're respecting the rhythm. The world we live in doesn't teach that. It tells you to push harder, hustle more, never stop. But if you override your natural rhythm long enough, you burn out, you disconnect, you numb out. That's not strength. That's dissonance. Rhythm doesn't just govern individuals. It governs civilizations. Collective consciousness rises and falls. Cultures expand, collapse, rebuild. Movements gain traction, get suppressed, and rise again. Even the planet breathes in rhythm. So when the world feels like it's falling apart, don't panic. Look at the rhythm. It's not always a crisis. Sometimes it's a reset. The key is not to be a victim of the swing, but to find your center. The master doesn't stop the pendulum. They learn to stand still in its center, grounded, calm, observant. Joy comes, receive it. Grief comes, let it pass. Don't cling, don't resist. Flow with it. And when you do that, something shifts. Life no longer feels like a roller coaster. It becomes a tide you can ride. That's rhythm. Now let's talk about principle 6, cause and effect. This one breaks illusions. Every cause has an effect. Every effect has a cause. Nothing happens randomly. Everything is connected into something deeper. If you keep ending up in the same patterns, the same arguments, the same self-sabotage, there's a cause. And it's usually not on the surface. It's buried in your subconscious beliefs, habits, emotional wiring. Most people live reacting to effects. Life hits them and they respond. Someone triggers them and they lash out. Money disappears and they but Hermetic wisdom says you don't have to live like that. You can become the cause, not through force, but through awareness, by identifying the patterns, by tracing the emotion, by shifting the belief. And when you do that, the effects begin to change naturally without manipulation. Cause and effect doesn't ask you to blame yourself for everything. It asks you to own your influence, to stop waiting for life to hand you what you want and start creating the conditions for it. Oh, you're already broadcasting energy, already creating ripples. The question is, are you doing it consciously or are you repeating someone else's code? This is where cause and effect gets even deeper. Because the truth is, the vast majority of your causes are running beneath your conscious awareness. They're not the things you say or think about intentionally. They're the beliefs you absorbed when you were 6, the survival patterns you adopted when you were hurt. The mental habits you've repeated so many times, they became background noise. And when those programs are running, life starts to feel like it's against you, like the universe keeps saying no. But it's not rejection, it's reflection. And the moment you start to dig into that, really ask, what's the deeper pattern here? What's the root? You move from being a passive participant to becoming the designer. You start to plant causes intentionally. You speak truth. You act from alignment. You take small steps rooted in who you want to become, not who you've been conditioned to be. And those causes ripple out, not always instantly, but always inevitably. You begin to see that cause and effect isn't about control. It's about coherence. You can't control every variable in the universe, but you can control the energy you bring to it. You can control the clarity of your intention, and that clarity sets the stage for creation. This brings us to the final Hermetic principle, the one most misunderstood, most overlooked gender. And no, this has nothing to do with modern debates about identity or biology. In Hermeticism, gender is a universal principle. It's about the two creative forces that exist in everything, the masculine and the feminine. Not man and woman, not roles or stereotypes, energies, archetypes, patterns of creation. The masculine is
will, direction, logic, structure, action. It's the force that decides, penetrates, moves. The feminine is intuition, emotion, receptivity, creativity, incubation. It's the space that holds, nurtures, and gives life to form. And here's the truth: you have both. Every person, regardless of gender identity, contains both principles. And when those two are in balance, creation flows. Ideas become reality, desires become form. You stop overthinking and actually start creating, but when they're out of balance, life becomes chaotic.
You might be all action with no vision, hustling with no clarity, or you might be full of inspiration and ideas but no momentum. Always dreaming, never doing. That's imbalance. This principle teaches that true power comes from the union of the two. When your inner feminine receives the inspiration, the emotion, the intuitive pull, and your inner masculine steps forward with action, decision, and direction, that's when things manifest. It's not magic. It's mechanics. Want to create something new, first go inward. That's feminine. Listen, feel, imagine, then act. That's masculine. Structure it, move, speak it into being. Most people try to manifest with only one energy. They affirm and visualize but never act. Or they grind and hustle but never align. That's not manifestation, that's fragmentation. The Hermetic wisdom says unite the two and you become a creator, not a wishful thinker, not a reactor, a true initiator of reality. And here's where it gets really interesting. Your subconscious mind, the part of you that governs over 90% of your daily behavior, is feminine in nature. It receives, it doesn't analyze, it absorbs, it believes what is repeated with emotion and imagery. That's why visualization, storytelling, music, rituals, and repetition are so powerful. They bypass the logical mind and program the subconscious directly, but you still need your masculine energy to guide it, to aim your focus, to show up, to act even when it's uncomfortable. This balance is how alchemy happens. The ancients didn't just teach these laws to be poetic. They encoded the mechanics of creation within us and around us. And this final principle, gender, is the key that ties all the others together. Mentalism told you everything starts in the mind. Vibration showed you that everything moves. Correspondence taught you that patterns repeat on every level. Polarity revealed that opposites are really one. Rhythm taught you to ride the cycles. Cause and effect handed you responsibility. And gender, it gives you the power to bring it all to life. When you embody both the stillness and the spark, the feeling and the fire, you stop waiting for someone or something to give you permission. You become whole. And from that wholeness you create. Relationships shift too. You stop seeing others as people who complete you. Instead, they become mirrors, reflections of where your own energies are in balance or not. And the more integrated you become, the more harmonious your outer connections grow. You stop attracting chaos. You stop chasing validation. You start creating from love, not for it. In ancient mystery schools, especially in Egypt, the androgynous being was sacred, not because it erased identity, but because it represented spiritual wholeness, a fully integrated human who no longer needed the outer world to mirror what they had reclaimed inside. That's what this is all about. You've made it through the 7 Hermetic Principles, the keys to the universe, not as abstract philosophy, but as tools for daily living. They've always been here, hidden in plain sight, whispering to the part of you that's always known. You are not broken, you are remembering, and this is where the real work begins. Because understanding the principles is one thing, living them is another. This path isn't about being perfect, it's about being aware every day, practicing, aligning, returning again and again until your inner world becomes the blueprint your outer world follows. This is the path of the modern mystic, the conscious creator, the awakened human. So now the question is, what will you do with this? Will you close your eyes again? Go back to sleep? Pretend this was just another interesting video, or will you begin to rebuild your life one thought, one action, one vibration at a time? Because now you know, and once you know, you can't unknow it. This isn't the end, it's the beginning. And if you're ready to go deeper beyond what YouTube will allow, sign up for our free newsletter Insights Academy linked below. You'll get access to more teachings, tools, and frameworks we can't share publicly. And for a limited time, we're also sending a free digital copy of the Kabbalion, the original Hermetic guide that inspired all of this. The veil is lifted. Now it's up to you. Let us know in the comments if this hit home by simply writing, "I understood it." We'll know exactly what you mean.